Okay.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Katy. I'm from Parkersburg, West Virginia, and I've been sober since November 30th, 2017.
Was there a turning point of when you made the decision to get clean?
Yeah, I had a pulmonary embolism as a result of shooting drugs for multiple days, and it blood clot broke off and went to my lungs, and it was very scary, but I still found myself 3 days later unable to not get high. So like the fear of death was less than the fear of not getting high. And then the reckoning that followed that was enough to kind of bring me to my knees in a God moment, and I just surrendered and really have been sober since that day. That was it. That was the moment.
How did it start? How'd you get started?
Well, I actually play music, and so it started as just a way to get drunk for free at parties through my 20s, and play music around the campfire. And I got started because in reality, I really just wanted to be a part of things. I really wanted to be accepted and welcomed, and so I picked up playing guitar, and that's what made me feel that way. And then along with that just kind of came the lifestyle of just drinking. And it's funny, when I was young, not even 21, I remember I was pregnant with my daughter. I was in high school, and I was fake drinking a beer at a party and got busted for it because I threw it over the hill beside the lake, and it made a loud noise. But I wanted to be part of that environment, that scene so much. I hadn't told anybody yet that I was pregnant. So obviously I wasn't going to drink, but I didn't want them to think I was lame, not drinking. So I had no idea, though, ultimately what would come of it. But I think that's what got me started, is just wanting to feel like I belonged somewhere.
How old is your daughter now?
She's 19. Yeah.
So how is your relationship with her?
I have 2 kids. They're both 19. They're actually 10 months apart. She's 20. Yeah, go back, take that, now she'll get mad. She's 20, my son's 19. My relationship with them now is really, I couldn't ask for a better relationship with those guys, because, they've been through a lifetime of addiction and recovery. I mean, my first time in sobriety was in 2009, and I stayed sober till 2013, and then I relapsed. So them having been born in 02 and 03, their lives were pretty chaotic until about 2009. Then I got arrested and got clean, and their lives came back together slowly over those 4 years. They came back to mom. We were doing Boy Scouts and baseball and things of that nature, 4-H. And then I relapsed in 2013, and it all kind of fell away again. Well, it didn't kind of. What took me 4 years to build took me about 4 months to break. And, just lost everything again. And so those 4 years, those kids went with me to meetings. They were super involved in my recovery world. I ended up working for like a halfway house. So when I relapsed, I don't know that they knew then what had happened, but at 19 and 20, they see the whole thing, and they really respect recovery and what it can do for someone. But my daughter works in treatment, so she's a behavioral health tech, and then her boyfriend is also working in treatment, fiance. and they're having a baby. I'm about to be a grandmother, first time. And that baby will never have known me to be anything but sober. I mean, just for today.
Well, that's great that they're in. That she's working in
Treatment.
treatment and support.
Yeah, yeah.
I lost my train of thought there.
It's okay. Grandbaby, I'm about to be a grandma.
I know. So, that's obviously a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, we talked a little bit earlier with Patrick about stigma
Sure.
and what a difficult part of the process that is.
Okay.
If you want to talk about that a little bit too.
Sure. Let me think for a second. I think it's getting better. I do a lot of work with a lot of collaborating agencies that work with people with substance use disorder, and I'm watching people who have not struggled with substance use disorder be kind of co-laboring with people who have in order to get things done, like at the Office of Drug Control Policy. You know, West Virginia, the West Virginia Office of Drug Control Policy obviously needs to lean on the voices of the ones that have been through it, because they recognize that there is an element that people in recovery bring that they simply don't understand. So I think that's helping with the stigma. It's being kind of forced to be just handled. That's my perspective. That's my perception, is that it doesn't have any place in the world. It just doesn't, and so there's no reason for it. It's actually counterproductive, obviously, to the things that we need to get done and the things that need to happen for people to get quality services and to be able to receive like quality treatment and things like that. So I don't know if that was the direction that you were going with your question as far as stigma goes, but.
Have you had to deal with it directly, or are there instances where you've?
Oh yeah. You know, so it's 2022, so I'd say dealing with it directly, yeah. Through the court system, I think it would be my biggest, so I don't know that, let me think. Give me a second to think.
No, you can address the court system too.
Okay, well, I went through a drug court program in West Virginia, and I think that they didn't really so the stigma of being a drug addict was just a correlation to being a criminal, right? Rather than the substance use disorder leading to criminal behavior, it was kind of viewed like, well, this person was predisposed to crime, you know, and so that kind of stigma of just really criminalized as a drug addict, you know, that's something that I've encountered and that I went through, yeah.
Has it gotten any better?
Yes, I think so. As more drug courts have popped up, more judges, but it's so funny because even now in 2022, judges and drug courts and probation officers, the criminal justice system at large, probation officers, even police officers don't really understand the semantics of treatment. They don't understand the difference between a person who's in treatment and a person who's in recovery. So very basic fundamental ideas involving substance use disorder, the judicial system is just now catching up to. So they're doing better. And again, I think they've learned that they have to lean on us to understand in order to get a grip on things in this state. They're going to have to.
Well, explain that difference if somebody doesn't understand treatment and recovery, the difference.
Well, so let's say that somebody goes to jail and their judge says, okay, I'm going to order you to however long you have to go complete rehab. Treatment is what is considered medically necessary, just like any other treatment for any other medical problem. Somebody needs treatment. They are going to be given evidence-based practices. They're going to be given sometimes medication. Sometimes that treatment's going to include like psychotherapy, or it's going to be very rigorous, and there's criteria. That's treatment, and it's very scheduled or monitored, very stringent. That's treatment. Recovery is the entire encompassing community that needs to come around that person, that individual. That includes, your 12-step fellowships. That often includes your faith organizations. That includes your nonprofit sector. That's recovery encompasses all of those pieces that come together. And so what I was trying to say, sometimes that the people in the judicial system will incorrectly say, well, I ordered that person to recovery. You need to order that person to treatment. So explaining the difference in treatment and recovery, actually I've been asked that so many times just in the past 6 months to try to define them. And the jury is still out on the definitions, I think, on what those are. But we're learning how to talk better about these things. And that's helping with stigma, right? That's helping smash the stigma, is understanding the language. And people are doing better.
I think that's one of the points of these interviews, too, is to show education, to show the wide range of people that are affected, can be affected.
Mm-hmm.
It affects everyone, can affect anyone.
Yeah.
And, how it got started to recognize it, and that it's a long road, it's a long process.
Sure.
So you were saying you're now into recovery.
Yes.
To helping people in recovery.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I haven't. Yeah. So I work at Harmony Ridge Recovery Center, and it's a detox 28-day program, and I put people into treatment there, and I love being able to do that and to get people from, right in the middle of their madness into a detox and 28-day. That's my job. That's my job in treatment. I'm a person in recovery, so I sponsor women. I have a sponsor. I work the steps. I work them every day. I have to treat my own disease, what I consider to be. I work a 12-step program. I work a 12-step program, and I sponsor women. I have sponsees. I have a sponsor. I work the steps every day, and that's my recovery, which is separate from my job, which is that I work in treatment, helping people get into detox and 28-day treatment at Harmony Ridge.
How does one get into Harmony Ridge?
So one gets into Harmony Ridge. There's multiple ways to get into Harmony Ridge. I myself am a business development rep, so my phone number is a direct phone number to get plugged into Harmony Ridge. There are several of us, 5 of us actually, 4 of us. To get into Harmony Ridge, you make contact with Harmony Ridge by one of the various ways that there are, whether it's Google, or you call one of the 1-800 numbers, admissions numbers, or you call one of us. And then you just do an assessment. We do an assessment over the phone. We have our own medical team, and we do our own approvals, and that's how you get into Harmony Ridge. Sometimes there's a wait list, sometimes there's not. And
where are you guys located?
We're in Parkersburg.
Um,
Walker, West Virginia, actually. We're in Mountwood Park. So, yeah.
How has COVID changed things?
COVID changed everything. So it isolated us, and isolation is a terrible idea for an addict, an alcoholic. Being isolated is the opposite of what we need. You know, there's sometimes said that the opposite of addiction is community, connection. We have to be able to connect with each other. So COVID really, we lost so many people during the beginning of COVID, just due to that. And then the recovery community was very, inventive in coming up with ways like Zoom meetings and phone calls, Zoom meetings, things like that, but it's not the same as that connection. Connection is the opposite of addiction.
You guys didn't have to shut down, though, right?
No, Harmony Ridge did not have to shut down. No, we plugged right on through. We just put into place measures. We, of course, put in COVID testing measures, and now we have, like, if somebody tests positive for COVID while they're with us, then we are able to quarantine them. So we have like a cabin-style treatment center. It's in the middle of a park, and it's kind of like a camp, and so we can take one of those cabins and quarantine them if we have COVID cases, and then we test everybody before they come in. So we have a screening process, and we didn't have to shut down, though. No. There was times when there were, each cabin was quarantined to that cabin, though, until the whole place tested negative. And that was challenging, very challenging. But everybody that works at Harmony Ridge I won't say everybody, but the most of us are in recovery. And there's a lot of us, I think close to like 100 employees or something. I mean, it's a big operation. So we got 80 beds, co-ed. Yeah, so.
What is it you guys need the most?
At Harmony Ridge? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
When someone completes the 28-day program, what's the next step?
Well, that's, so we have discharge planning. That's, I guess, what the treatment industry needs the most is more like aftercare programs, because now I'm speaking about West Virginia at large. The ratio of treatment beds to recovery beds, again, the language, the ratio is wildly off. There are so many more treatment beds in West Virginia than there are aftercare recovery beds, like sober living, things like that. Outpatient services, and really we just lack the infrastructure right now to be able to even build them, right? Or even but we're working on it. At the state level, there's a Senate bill that's been passed that is going to incentivize treatment centers to be able to show those outcomes, like where is this person 30 days post-treatment, 60 days post-treatment, are they employed, and this is all done through the Office of Drug Control Policy, that incentivizes treatment centers to provide that data. So, and it's difficult with a transient population that is so hard to track. But at this time, I think that what we need is everybody to get on board and play ball and be a team and everybody to work together. That's what I think. And we do. I mean, I can say I'm very proud to work for Harmony Ridge because we do good work. We have good discharge planning. We don't ever send anybody down the road without a good, safe discharge plan. And that's a standard that every treatment center needs to be held to, I think.
talk about the separation of treatment and recovery.
Okay.
Is it possible to get treatment without recovery, and what does that do to the person? What's the difference?
Can you elaborate?
Can you go to a treatment center, do your detox, and then be back out without any recovery?
Absolutely,
And
yes.
what does that do for recidivism, or people who go back to addiction?
Well, I don't know what what the ratio is or what the statistics really are for somebody who does not go to aftercare or long-term after treatment. I don't know those statistics. I know that plugging them into their local agencies or 12-step fellowships, is pretty helpful. But just to go to treatment and then leave treatment, and no, treatment is going to treat your physical body. Treatment is going to treat your physical withdrawal symptoms. It's going to start the process of healing your brain, physically, literally. It's going to start the body's metabolic system, biological systems, and getting back on track. 28 days is the bare minimum. If you go back out into the world after 28 days and you don't take care of you and your recovery, then I would say there's like a 9 out of 10 people are going to end up back in treatment. Hands down. I mean, because it's not an illness of just the body. It's an illness of the body and the mind. And it needs to be addressed. You've got to address what's up here after treatment. And that's what recovery is.
That's a good answer.
Thanks.
Good soundbite. Hey, talk about your relapse a little bit. You were talking about, you've been clean for 4 years?
Yeah, since November. Well, it'll be 5 years in November.
No, but before you
Oh, yeah.
relapsed back in 2013?
Yeah.
You had been clean for 4 years?
Yeah.
What happened? Was there, talk a little
Sure.
bit about that, if you would.
So actually, it's ironic that we'll segue into this, because what happened was I started working in treatment. And I felt separated. I felt separated from recovery because I couldn't be honest, like in meetings, about where I really was, because my clients were there. And so many of us that work in treatment do face relapse. It's like a large number of people that work in treatment end up relapsing because we're not able to separate those two things. So I think that's what happened with me. I started working in treatment, and then I also made some very minor, at the time, concessions about my company. So I started hanging out with some people that were just drinking. Again, I play music. That's why things like Healing Appalachia are so important, because as a musician who's sober, I need to be able to connect with other people who are sober and play music and that aren't drinking and partying. So Healing Appalachia provides that environment for us to come together and have that musical connection, which is spiritual. It is it's innate. It's in us. It's a part of who we are. And also do it within the confines of our recovery. And that's really an important place to be able to be. So, yeah, I got excited there.
So is it different now with your work in recovery, and you're in recovery still? Can you now be honest with the people that you are mentored, that you are sponsoring,
Yeah.
that look, it's still a battle for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always going to be a battle.
Yeah. It's like a treatment I have to take every day. A personal intention. I have to be intentional with my recovery today, and yeah, I can be honest with the people that I work with and that I serve in my job and in my personal recovery. Yeah, I can be honest. But I had to learn that through, trial and error. I had to go out there, and then I went to treatment, and then I relapsed. And then I went to treatment again, and then I relapsed. And then after the last relapse, which was in 2016, I stayed out there till 2017, and then I almost lost my life. So,
That's important note to also stress is that it's not, it's a constant. You know, the relapsing is not uncommon.
Mm-mm.
And the relapse, and they go back, and the relapse, and they go back before you can finally.
Relapse does not have to be part of recovery, but the average person relapses 7 times before they get it. That's a statistic that I do know. But it doesn't have to be a part of it. People that come in can get it and stay sober, but the average is 7 times.
See, that was a good soundbite.
Good deal.
No, I think that's important. I think it's a hopeful comment for both ways. That you can go in and you can beat it right away, but even if you don't give up.
Just stay alive long enough to get it. Just stay alive long enough to get it. That's why we have MAT programs and things like that. I don't know if you want to go in that, but that's why we have
Go ahead
them.
and talk about it.
Well, I mean, excuse me. So medically assisted treatment, there's a lot of different views on that. So I'll be speaking personal conviction, and that is that if we can keep you alive long enough to get you into recovery, because medically assisted treatment, again, is treatment. There should absolutely be a plan in place on how to taper off of that medication to where there is none. It's treatment. It's medically assisted treatment. Hoping that you'll stay alive long enough to get into recovery, to get plugged in, right? So, yeah, that's the difference with the relapsing 7 times average is I don't know what average of those people are going to die, you know, because we're not dealing with alcohol anymore necessarily, or you know, we're dealing with fentanyl. So I don't know that you have 7 times to go out there and give it a shot, but.
No, you're leading me into my next question is, over the course of the last 10 years, there's been a constant change of the different popular addictions, and it seems like it's now fentanyl is the #1 danger and
Yeah.
#1 addiction. If you want to talk about how, with your work that you've done,
Yeah.
the changes of what you've seen from the different types of drugs and where we are now.
Yeah, so the last 10 years, well, it all goes back to the Appalachian pill mill story, you know, where so many of us, whether we were college students or coal workers, were prescribed Oxycontins, and then those were, you know, taken away. And then it was heroin, and then, yeah, the popular drug is fentanyl. It's funny because I've only seen like 1 or 2 people test positive for actual heroin, and that came from an emergency room worker. A peer at an emergency room worker was showing me the data on their drug screens, blood tests, like, there was only like 2 or 3 that were actually opiates. They were all fentanyl. There is no heroin. So it was like, oh, well, these 2 people, they actually got heroin. You know, everyone else was going to buy heroin, but what they got was fentanyl.
So that's what it's being sold under the guise of heroin.
Sometimes, and then also sometimes people just have gotten fentanyl, probably under the guise of heroin, and then that's been what's grabbed them. So then now that's what they were looking for. Yeah.
Is meth still an issue?
Yeah. Actually, that was my drug of choice. Yeah. Yeah, it's still an issue. And so I'd say there's a good mix-up between people that I put into treatment that are abusing heroin or fentanyl to meth. I'd say it's a pretty even ratio, really.
Does it make any difference in the, let's say, recovery process, but the treatment process for either one of those?
Sure, yeah. Treatment for heroin addiction is going to, as far as the detox process, is going to include a Suboxone taper, 5 days or so, 5 to 7 day taper of Suboxone. Also could include Ativan. It's medically treated with heroin and with opiates. Same with benzos and alcohol. With meth, there's no proven medical detoxification other than an Ativan taper. That's just to wane the anxiety, right? So, as far as treatment goes, is there a difference? Only in the detox process. Just getting over that hump, that first several days. After that, it's all, pretty much the same.
With your friend who works in the emergency room, are they seeing like massive spike in fentanyl overdoses?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I know that 1,201 people died of an opiate overdose or a fentanyl overdose because there's 1,201 Narcan boxes out there being given out over this weekend. So one for each person that overdosed. So there's been spikes, yeah. And we go through spikes in our little communities, where there's a bad batch of fentanyl. I don't know what the statistics are over the last couple of years, to be honest with you. I don't, because they don't roll in until the next following, you know what I mean? So, yeah.